Lay residents express concern on high cost of goods. PNG ranked 4th in the world in road accidents. And IPBC to recoup losses from MVIL.
This is National MTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Tuesday's news. As always, it's great to have your company. Lay residents say they are facing the impact of increased taxation on income as well as goods and services. They struggle to pay bills and put food on the table. The reality of the high cost of goods and services is evident on the streets, with people struggling to make ends meet. Today, MTV's Bethany Harriman spoke to Tony Oreo, a Papua New Guinean man who collects empty soft drink cans to sell for recycling in order to buy food.
Lay residents are feeling the pinch of the high tax charged by the government on income, including goods and services. A family living near the Top Town area has spoken out about their challenges in urban Lay City.
Whatever we in fortnight goes before the next fortnight comes. So it's really hard.
Herman Moore and his family are part of the 30% of the country's population that live in towns and cities. Herman and his wife have retired. They live here with their children. The cost of paying for food alone per day is over 100 kina.
So the government can reduce some tax in some areas. It will help a bit.
The Papua New Guinean extended family culture is dying away. Today, a family unit works to survive on its own. That can be seen in Lay like any other modern city in the world. For others who are less fortunate and don't have a job and home, every day is a struggle to get food, shelter and water. This morning on Lay's Huon Road, one of the busiest, Tony Oreo sits on the curb smashing empty cans that he will sell to a recycling company.
No, before me I just 15 kina. Na sambla me I just 10 kina.
Oro Governor Gary Jufa in Parliament last week questioned Treasury Minister Patrick Pruich on the reduction of income tax charged to Papua New Guineans, now at a threshold of 35%. Jufa called for an explanation to why it hasn't been reduced to 20%.
This is an opportunity for us to reduce taxes for Papua New Guineans who are feeling the pinch of the growing cost of living in this country.
Minister Pruich explained that he wasn't aware of the proposal, but studies are being conducted for the tax review, which will be tabled to the Cabinet.
Part of that exercise is basically awaiting the report of the tax review.
On the ground, people like Tony say the cost of food in the shops have made it difficult to survive on an average 15 kina per week. Tony's struggles is a snapshot of the socio-economic problems that may arise amidst Lay's growth and urban developments around the country. Bethany Harriman, National MTV News, Lay.
The debate on the proposed Lay City Commission is far from over. Morobe Governor Kelly Nari yesterday called for more consultations into the establishment of the proposed City Commission. His comments follow questions raised by various stakeholders in Lay over the responsibility of the City Commission.
The Morobe Governor has maintained his stand against the proposed Lay City Commission. Kelly Naro was amongst other politicians, including the Prime Minister, who officiated at the opening of a new PNG Power gas turbine generator in Lay yesterday. And he chose the occasion to talk about the issue again.
That because this is a sensitive issue, that will touch the lives and the welfare and the well-being of the people of Lay City and Morobe Province. We need to consult more.
The governor said having a city commission might duplicate the roles and responsibilities of the current Lay City Council.
Different positions in terms of its reconciliation with the current structure that is set up to administer good governance, then we have to effectively address that, because otherwise it will be detrimental to good administration and good politics and good government.
The Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has been kept within this circle of debate since the proposed City Commission was announced publicly last year.
Current status quo cannot continue. We cannot continue knowing very well that it is failing us, that we are not able to deliver the services to the people that we represent, and we are truly deserving of these services.
Mr. O'Neill said the proposed Lay City Commission is not a political issue, whether it is a measure taken to improve the level of services that are being provided to Lay City residents.
Our city is expanding. Our illegal settlers are settling everywhere in unplanned settlements. Someone needs to take ownership of issues as such. This is not a political issue.
What has come out from this ongoing debate is nothing new. The Chief Secretary to the government, Sir Manasupa Zurano, has expressed his interest to see the commission come into place. The Lay MP, who initiated the plan of having a city commission, believes having the commission will allow for better provision of services, as the body will be able to generate its own income through taxes and fees. Colin Barilai, National MTV News, Lay.
All land transport bodies will now come under one management once the Road Authority Act becomes a law. This follows the state's move to remove all unroadworthy vehicles and promote road safety on all roads in the country. These bodies include the National Road Safety Council, Land Transport Board and Land Transport and Traffic Registry Services.
In a conference today, acting CEO for Road Traffic Authority, Nelson Terima, said the new act is focused on providing efficient and quality service to the people. Terima said because of a number of organizations performing similar tasks like issuing driver's licenses and registering vehicles, there is no proper record of the number of unworthy vehicles on our roads. He said the Road Traffic Authority Act will impose a centralized system that will run right throughout the country, and his office aims to complete this by March 2015.
So that centralized is the latest technology that we are trying to put in place with the assistance of ADB and our state. These are some of the improvements that we are trying to bring into the country, especially the public transport system in the country as well.
In 2004, the Road Traffic Authority Bill was passed by the national government and it became an act of parliament. The law, once in place, will corporatize a public system in the country. Currently, there are talks between PMV associations and Road Traffic Authority on how both parties can work under one umbrella.
Heavy vehicles, taxis, buses, rural, people, all this, so they will get the data at the same time how much they're supposed to collect, we'll give it to them.
To the increase in number of vehicles parked illegally outside offices or business houses. But with the new law soon to be established, Road Traffic Safety is confident to minimize road and traffic accidents in PNG. Tekla Gunga, National MTV News.
And National MTV News continues in a moment after the break. Stay with us. Thanks for your company and welcome back to the news. Preparations are underway to establish the PNG Open University. The university is a direct intervention by the government to decrease the alarming number of grade 12 school leavers who do not make it into tertiary institutions. Minister for Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, Malakai Tabar, said the concept of the PNG Open University will be brought to Cabinet soon.
Member for Ijivitari, David Arore, asked the Minister for Higher Education, Malakai Tabar, about what has become of the PNG Open University concept. As the then Minister responsible for higher education, Mr. Arore said in 2013, the government came up with the PNG Open University concept as part of a direct intervention to alleviate the high number of grade 12 school leavers. 5 million kina was appropriated to establish the university.
To date, we know that there's only about 5,000 spaces available for our all tertiary intakes in the country per year. 5 million was appropriated for the establishment of the National Open University to be able to absorb the 18,000 plus grade 12 leavers that are coming out of our secondary institutions every year. What has become of that particular initiative?
Minister Tabar said preparations are underway. They would like to trial a program that will see students registered to existing tertiary institutions without being there physically. But there are technical challenges.
We basically are waiting on an ICT underwriter, and Telecom and Huawei and Digicel are waiting, especially Huawei and Digicel, those two commercial ones. We're waiting on Telecom to stand up and effectively give us this responsibility to underwrite the ICT program for the Open University.
Mr. Tabar said a meeting has been scheduled for this week with heads of higher institutions to revisit the PNG Open University concept and make a submission to Cabinet.
We would like to revisit the old concept. There is that 5 million. We believe we need a bit more than 5 million. We will basically be coming to you through the provincial governments and your governors, but also each individual member of parliament from the districts especially should stand up and be part of a program that will bring accessibility and quality to higher learning institutions, our learning programs to our students.
Delhi Bagu, National MTV News.
On tonight's MTV News special report, we examine the need for a national trade waste policy and explore the main challenges that face Port Moresby's water regulator, Edoranu. Papua New Guinea doesn't have an effective trade waste policy that can regulate the waste dumping behavior of businesses. The policy drafting was initiated by relevant parties, including the Environment and Conservation Department, in early 2000. But more than a decade later, an official policy is still pending. Fresh calls have now been made by Edoranu and the National Capital District Commission Waste Management for the immediate creation of the trade waste policy. It also comes at a time when the country is experiencing a great amount of commercial activity and substantial infrastructure development within urban limits.
That's why it's causing headache for everybody else.
Last month, Edoranu declared an estimated consumer debt of 50 million kina. Additional to his plea for customers to pay up, Edoranu's CEO, Henry Mokono, urged the government through the Departments of Health and Environment and Conservation to expedite the establishment of a trade waste policy.
I see the only solution, or the best solution to lose, is the waste trade policy. When it comes on and it's enacted and there's an act of parliament and becomes law, then we can be able to properly arrest, police this policy, enforce it.
The policy, according to Mokono, will give the legal teeth to prosecute any improper dumping of trade wastes, particularly grease from food bars and industrial waste from commercial manufacturers.
It's being taken on board by stakeholders led by NCDC, Department of Health, Edoranu, and our planning department, national planning. They're coming together to put this trade waste policy together.
NCDC's Waste Management Manager, Joshua Sam, says the Department of Environment and Conservation is not doing enough to address this issue seriously, and he was quite blunt about it.
This is very frank, but it is true. DEC is not providing good leadership in terms of waste management in the country, so whatever is happening in the provinces is just ad hoc.
The logic is simple. Create a trade waste policy so relevant parties like Edoranu, Water PNG, as well as NCDC's Waste Management can have the jurisdiction to impose fines, charge and arrest business operators that fail to comply with waste removal regulations. But before that can occur, the Public Health Sewerage Regulation within the Public Health Act 1973 needs to be actively reviewed and revamped. And this is why. The current fine for a person who discharges trade wastes into a sewer otherwise than in accordance with Section 18 of the Sewerage Regulation 1973, will be fined a mere amount of 10 kina for the first offence. For a subsequent offence, a fine not exceeding 20 kina. In addition, a fine not exceeding 1 kina for each day during which the offence continues after the receipt of a written notification from the local medical authority.
We don't want to have a situation where the national legislation is out of date and the fines are peanuts.
Business houses, for a fact, they cannot do that in Australia or any other developed worlds. They can only do it here because we don't have these kind of policies and laws in place.
Calls to review and revamp the entire Public Health Act 1973 have also been made. This will enable relevant agencies to better regulate and monitor PNG's increase in urban commercial growth, infrastructure developments, including public health practices.
The Public Health Act is in serious need of review.
In the meantime, Edoranu and NCDC have encouraged businesses to construct internal waste management and treatment facilities.
What they normally use is a grease trap. For others like fast food and restaurants, they must have grease traps. So they do not pump grease into the sewer lines.
The cumulative impact of all the residences discharging waste cooking oil into the sink and then into the sewer, that may have a similar impact compared to business houses.
And that highlights Edoranu's main problem, an infrastructure catastrophe. Port Moresby's booming and expanding population, coupled with an aging underground system designed in the 1960s.
I think in Port Moresby we almost have 1 million people. It's reaching that mark. Very shortly we will reach 1 million. So it's putting pressure, extreme pressure on our current system.
40,000 kilometers of underground piping is what needs to be overhauled.
Every week, with some of the industries, the commercial manufacturers and restaurants and all this, they're pumping their waste directly into the sewer lines as well. So they're putting more pressure on this. The sewer lines are actually meant for household waste.
Mokono explains that apart from the delay of the trade waste policy, the Port Moresby sewage system upgrade project needs to be expedited as well to meet the city's growing population and business activities.
We need government support to rehabilitate the city of Port Moresby in terms of our networks. They're aging. We need to upsize in most areas, upgrade.
The upgrade was planned in 2010 between the PNG government through the Independent Public Business Corporation and the Japanese government. Edoranu and NCDC's Waste Management in the meantime have urged their consumers to manage their waste while they look forward to the creation of a trade waste policy and an active revamp of the Public Health Act 1973. Despite the Prime Minister's proposal to open betel nut markets in NCD, the City Commission will continue to implement the buai ban policy. Governor Parkup said this is to cater for Pacific Games and other international activities. He said betel nut rubbish and stains in public places are an eyesore to international guests. UPNG journalism student Eric Harupma has this report.
Governor Parkup said NCDC will not tolerate or compromise with people's bad actions in disposing betel nut rubbish in wrong places. Mr. Parkup said NCD Reserve Police, City Rangers and Concerned Authority will continue to impose fines to betel nut vendors.
Everybody in the city knows that the police are part of smuggling the betel nut into the city. They are the ones who are defeating the ban, and they should be part of the solution. Instead, they are part of the problem.
Authorities played an important role in enforcing the ban to educate vendors to vend at the right place. Parkup said to control and regulate betel nut business, NCDC has made concession with the people to operate under a license. However, after the Commission's announcement, people took cue from it to sell betel nut anywhere in the city. Vendors have been warned that NCD Reserve Unit will carry out its normal operations in designated locations. Fines will be imposed to illegal vendors selling betel nut in public places. Parkup appealed to Catholic Church to use its influence to educate people so that they can achieve a win-win solution. Archbishop John Ribat, under his catechy, must address people to conduct betel nut business in a responsible way. Parkup said this is to promote a healthy and clean city to cater for international events. Meanwhile, NCDC will create mechanisms to control the betel nut rubbish, even though the Prime Minister warrants the reopening of betel nut markets.
We will be able to enforce that. The NCDC management, with the support of the governor, will be able to will maintain that buai ban. Even if the police reserve is being disbanded, we will still maintain the buai ban.
Eric Arupma, National MTV News.
Papua New Guinea has one of the highest rates of road accidents compared to other countries in the world. That's from Nelson Terima, Executive Director of Road Safety Council. The The major cause of the road deaths in PNG is from children attempting to cross the road. MTV's Vasina Tayama has more details on this report.
PNG is placed fourth in the world as having the highest rate of road accidents. The Road Safety Council is looking at ways to minimize this. Executive Director Nelson Terama said that once the new act of merging all the transport authority under a mother umbrella known as the Road Traffic Authority is passed in Parliament, harsh penalties and measures will be taken.
Very dangerous. I tell you, the safety is compromised. It's not guaranteed at all. Even Medento, Buluminski Highway or CP Highway or Iritano, Magi, all these highways talking about the drivers, behavior of the drivers. They don't care.
From a survey in 2013, 90% of drivers in Port Moresby do not know many of the traffic signs and rules, and nearly 250 people are killed on the roads. Records also indicate that most of the fatal accidents occurred between the months of December to January. The top 8 provinces that have high fatal accidents rates include NCD, Morobe, Western Highlands and Eastern Highlands Province, followed by Medang, Central, Chimbu and Hisipik Province.
Mechanism in place, to control mechanisms in place, so we take the control, making sure that they comply with rules, terms and conditions.
As a result, the Road Safety Council is warning drivers and pedestrians to take extra precautions when on the road, and they must know the road safety rules. Meanwhile, Terama said drivers traveling long distances along the Highlands Highway tend to drive at a very high speed. Should the act be passed in Parliament, Road Safety Council will make sure no bus is traveling at night on the Highlands Highway. Resting places will be built along the highway to make sure drivers get the needed rest. Global Positioning System or GPS will be put along the Highlands Highway to detect vehicles that are traveling on a high speed. Vasinata Yama, National MTV News.
Agriculture Minister and Middle Ramu MP Tommy Tomsko was summoned in Parliament to explain why coffee export licenses were given out without much coffee production. Day MP Wesley Nukun wanted to know if the government had any plans in place to support a dying economic cash crop. The multi-million kina coffee industry has declined in the last 30 years due to numerous reasons outlined in Parliament today.
Miplo production coffee garden go busia. Na only isim license so license export money.
Following questions by Day MP, Agriculture Minister Tommy Tomsko revealed a number of issues that had and are affecting the coffee industry. Minister Tomsko clarified that issues affecting the coffee industry existed before but were never addressed by past governments. He said lack of government support and other related problems caused the industry to collapse over time.
The industry collapsed as a result of the Panga coffee affair. 3 plantables like coffee DY, they are aged between 30 years and 70 years. They have gone past peak time to produce the yield required. Coffee, 1 hectare, before Emisa producing 5 tons. You can get up to maximum of 5 tons. Today, 5,000 kilograms.
Chuave MP Wera Mori asked a related question on the Price Stabilization Fund for coffee and if the PNG Coffee Board could be revived. In his response, Minister Tomsko said both issues were matters that needed to be studied carefully prior to making any decisions.
The market has become very fragmented, and that is why also the price is volatile on the market. So it is an issue that we need to study. The FER has looked into it, have identified that this is one of the issues they need to, and we further need to look into it. That's one. On the issue of the PNG Coffee Board, we will introduce, once we introduce the recommendations from the FER, which one would want to set up the agriculture sector in the way IPBC is set up, so that all the subsidiary boards are reporting to one board. Mr. Speaker, once it's like Acticam, Emistap long final draft long So once it becomes inside of Parliament and I go through, then we will appoint a board to go with it. At the moment, suppose people are appointing board.
Minister Tomskol will present to Parliament a policy statement on the coffee industry in the next session of Parliament. Bridget Komatap, National EMTV News.
And now we check out the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3795 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.372, $0.4758 Australian dollars, €0.3248 euro, and 43.67 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold closed lower, cocoa, coffee, and copper closed the day unchanged, while palm oil, crude oil, and copper all closed the day higher. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 47 points unchanged, the ASX closed at 30 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed the day at 27 points lower. You're watching National EMTV News tonight. Among stories coming up after the break, the Independent Public Business Corporation takes legal action against Woodland Capital Limited. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. The Independent Public Business Corporation Board has unanimously approved legal action against those responsible for losses in the alleged fraudulent transfer of 96 million kina to Woodland Capital Limited. This comes after the Supreme Court of New South Wales in Australia ordered Woodland Capital Limited to release 20 million Australian dollars to Motor Vehicle Insurance Limited.
Known as the Woodland Saga, the Supreme Court ruling in Australia on December 17, 2014 is a breakthrough for MVIL, which has been struggling to recoup the 96 million kina alleged fraudulent deal